Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us again. We are so excited to be with you again, and we're so privileged that you guys keep jumping on every week. And so we're very excited about tonight's topic. We're going to go a little bit deeper to one that's already been introduced because it's such an important one. And we're going to have the pleasure of having Chris Kyle and Kristen Collins leading it. Now, most of you know Chris Kyle. Kristen Collins is a very vital part of the leadership team, and she's the one that really helped Arizona open up, and she does so much of the work that you guys see. So very excited to hear from her tonight. And we thought we'd continue with the topic of how, because this is what we do in the trainings if you think about it. How do you take things that normally stymie you and actually turn them into provisions? So, you know, the overall theme of these events that we've been covering with you is how to flourish in times of uncertainty. And once again, we don't have to emphasize that these are times of uncertainty. So it's with great privilege and pleasure that we're going to go deeper into that and turn things that normally can stymie you into things of provision. So with that, Chris, Kyle, and Kristen, take it away.
Thank you, Ennio. Appreciate it. So in the first week that we did this, we talked about one of the basic paradigms of the universe, which sometimes we refer to as a human paradigm. And the human paradigm says that we all have a way we prefer life to be. And when it doesn't show up the way we prefer, we resist it. And usually the resistance can take the form of blame. We blame ourselves, others, of the situation, but not always. But what's very consistent is we do resist it. So, and that was what we talked about the first weekend. So, you know, once I understand that the antidote to resistance is acceptance or surrender, it was getting to surrender was that topic, then it creates an opportunity for me to have options and choice. So it's an empowering thing. And so we went through a lot of detail regarding how to get from to get from resistance to surrender or acceptance in that first session. But, you know, I can be clear about that from a rational, cognitive, mental point of view, but getting there and staying there could be an entirely different thing. So with this coronavirus pandemic, we have ample opportunities to experience life not showing up the way we prefer. So you get a chance here to get tons and tons of experience in how to release resistance and embrace acceptance and surrender, which doesn't mean agreeing with, condoning, capitulating, resigning to. It simply means being with what is to see what's possible in that rather than resisting it. So there's really four primary things that come to mind for me that are huge keys on being able to get from surrender to acceptance, from resistance to surrender and acceptance in a very consistent way. But there's one foundational out of those four. So for today, we're going to look at the foundational spiritual practice or set of practices that will support you in a phenomenal way in terms of consistently working to predispose yourself to not be reactive or defensive when life isn't showing up the way you want, not going to resignation and withdrawing, but rather being present and grounded and with what's happening out of faith and trusting God. So that's what we're going to get into. But first, I want to open it up for sharing. And this is a great opportunity for any of you that want to share to do so. And I want to encourage you to share if you have things to share. So when it's time for you to share, you unmute and then just assertively put out there what it is that you have. And then we'll have a conversation around it. And after that, then you can remute until it's the next time you want to share. So here's my question. This is what I'm looking for input and sharing regarding. Where is stress or anxiety or worry or distraction or resignation impacting your life right now? And how is that occurring for you? What's the experience it's creating? What are the internal conversations you're having about it. So just share what's been going on for you in regards to this unsettling of the entire world at the same time when it comes to things that you've gotten stressed about or anxious or worried or resigned that you're aware of. Sometimes I could be stressed out and I'm just completely unaware of it. Yeah, I have to stop and check in and think about it to realize, oh my gosh, that's stress that's weirding you out. So I'm talking about what you notice. So who'd like to share? We're going to take several people.
I'll share. I really thought I was handling things really well, but I have found myself in the last few days noticing that I think I'm putting like life on pause. Like I'm just thinking, okay, I'm just going to wait till this is over and then I'll resume life again. And that's, so as far as like, well, let me work out. I'm like, well, I'll just wait till this is over and then I'm going to work out. I'm going to wait till this is over and then I'm going to, even with work, I'm doing everything that I have to do during this time, but there are things that I could be doing that I'm not taking those further steps to be doing and utilizing the time to my benefit as opposed to just this, well, I'm just waiting. I'm just going to wait till it's over and then move on.
Would you call that, is part of that, would you characterize part of that as procrastination? Not the entirety of it, but part of it?
Yeah, and I'm not generally a procrastinator. I tend to dive in, get it done, and then move on. And yeah. I don't know why I'm where I'm at right now.
That's something that I've noticed myself also for how I'm reacting to this. And so I've been in this ongoing consideration, the whole, like procrastinating on things that this is a great opportunity to work on projects, because can't go anywhere. And I'm just noticing that my motivation to do so is not at its normal level. So that's been something that I've been contemplating. Well, I'll reference that later on as we go, but I can completely relate to what you're saying. Thank you for sharing. Thanks. Who else?
Thanks, Tracy.
Who else? Unmute if you're wanting to say
something.
I'll
share.
Okay.
This is Travis here. I think for me, I can quickly be predisposed to put the task before the person in front of me and the people in front of me. And so being in the circumstance that I am in currently, trying to lead and run a new business, we have 70, 75 employees, and there are literally a daily task list that is emailed to me of things that I have to change or do or not do. And so I just notice an anxiety, like I can spin out on what I'm doing or not doing and begin to judge myself based on the tasks. And I can become short and sharp and rude and begin to view people that I do value and want to treat with lots of value as if they're simply a commodity and a means to an end for me. And so I find myself often stopping and saying like, wow, I was not very friendly or kind or warm or any of the things I want to be, because I'm so spun up on the task that's at hand or what I'm trying to accomplish in a moment.
Is that occurring for you, that tendency occurring for you more than normal during this
time?
Yeah,
I'm aware of it, and yet I don't feel like I've got stressors coming at me in all ways like I do right now, and so way more now than normal. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know Travis, he's a Chick-fil-A operator in Santa Barbara, California. And Travis, my understanding is that Chick-fil-A, if you get one person with the coronavirus in your staff, then they basically shut down the operation for 14 days. Is that correct, or is that not correct?
Correct. Yeah. As of right now. Yeah.
So I don't know about you, but if I was an operator, that would have me uptight. So has that impacted you at all?
Yeah. I mean, it just is the stress of, I can oscillate between like thinking this whole thing is bunk and ridiculous and not do anything about it because I don't know what to do, or try to overmanage everything and control 70 people that I can't control one of. So it's very stressful.
Very okay. And I happen to know that Travis is a perfectionist, so that gives you double whammy sweated out.
Totally
juice
right.
there.
I mean, it literally is, yes, thinking that everybody has their judgment and in their interpretation of me that I'm trying to manage as well. So yeah, throw that in the mix. Lots of anxiety.
That's a lot. I hear you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Who else? Things that are creating worry, anxiety, resignation, distraction.
I'll go.
Okay.
Um, this is Kim here. So I feel like I'm
Oh,
living.
Kim, let me just interrupt you. I'm sorry. Let's do a discipline where when you come on and share, give everybody your name so they know who's talking. So go ahead, Kim.
Okay. Should I say it again?
Well, you see, you led by example, which I'm very happy for because that reminded me to say that, which I'd forgotten. So yeah, say
I
it with
aim
your
to
last
be-
name.
Yes. My name is Kim Mayo, and I feel like I've been living on a roller coaster for the last 3 weeks. I have been traveling full time since last June, and for the first time since, I spent more than like 3 nights in the same place, and now I've been in the same room for like over 3 weeks. And I feel like every day I'm go from being really motivated, really enthusiastic, to just completely apathetic and shut down and binge watching TV shows, and just like all within one day I'm like doing the cycle up and down all over the place. And there's that, I think it was Tracy that spoke first. She was talking about just like not having any motivation to be productive, and there are so many things that I could be doing right now and just not feeling any drive or motivation to do them because all the things that I've put energy into building myself up for have been like wiped off of possibility right now. So yeah, that's kind of my status.
And so what, just give me the laundry list of experiences you're having regarding that.
Meaning what?
Well, what you've mentioned, and then what else? What is it like? What's the experience that's creating for you when you think about that?
I mean, I definitely have a lot of like, I feel like I judge myself. I've been judging myself a lot recently. And just not having, it's been really hard to have grace with myself and compassion towards myself in the midst of this. And being really critical of the times when I'm not being productive and not being efficient and not getting things done, while also not having compassion for the reality of the situation and how like we're all going through, I think what we would call a stage of grief in the midst of all of this. So I would say the biggest thing is probably like self-judgment, being really critical. I don't know if that's exactly what you were looking for.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Thank you. So also moving forward, when people share throughout our time between now over this will last an hour. Also tell us where you're from. Now, Tracy who spoke first is from the Phoenix area in Arizona. I mentioned Travis is from Santa Barbara, California, and Kim is from New Hampshire. Are you in Dover proper?
I don't live anywhere anymore.
Okay.
I was in Dover, but I'm
The
currently
world.
at my mom's house in Massachusetts.
Okay, so from New England.
Yes.
All righty. We have time for one or two more. Who else would like to share what you're noticing and how this is impacting you?
I will. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
If my little square lights up, then you can see my name. My name is Nadine Parr. I am communicating to you from Grand Rapids, Michigan, affectionately known as the Grand Coast. We are in week 4 of Cozy Home Life. My experience is a lot more marital strain and hyper productivity, I would say, on my part, to grow my business and to finish an online course, to take my day and fractionate it, like whatever, divide it up to make sure that I can accomplish. And even I'm trying to do some very intentional, like spiritual practice stuff where I set my timer and I just sit in silence and I I'm in a class that involves a lot of reading, and I'm trying to like structure the day. All right, 20 minutes of that, and then set the timer, and then 15 minutes of this. And I think my response to, I have a fair amount of flexibility in my work, but I'm also a teacher, and I teach 3 days a week, and that was all wiped out. So it's caused me to have kind of the benefit of the time is like you were saying, Chris, about being able to have projects that you've been wanting to work on that you shelved till you have more time, and so you feel like this is going to be great. But it is a combination on my end of being so obsessed with making sure I'm producing that sometimes I'm literally straddling the threshold of a door going, should I walk in that room and read, or should I go over to this notebook and pay 2 bills? Oh, wait, I got to get on the phone and rearrange the payments, And so it's a bit of a busyness. So that's why I'm trying to factor in those moments of silence, because I do have a tendency to fret about financial provision.
Mm. All right. Thank you, Nadine. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So whatever's going on for you is going on for you. And thank you for all that you shared. But I just ask everybody on the call to think about what experiences you're having as you relate to this that don't align with what you prefer. In other words, if you could be relating to it in a different way, you would. And think about that, because that's what we're going to work on. So, God's given us a lot of provisions for how to connect with Him and how to deal with all the challenges of life. This isn't a concentrated period of challenges for most people. So it's actually a tremendous opportunity for practicing some of these things. And we're going to practice some tonight briefly. I'm going to share some about them very briefly. But the big trick is just to give you a chance to experience it and see how that works. And it's all falls under the category of what I call contemplative spiritual disciplines. They're all in the mindfulness category. Mindfulness can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. They're meditative in their orientation. But I like using the term contemplative spiritual disciplines because these are a part of ancient Christianity. They were involved in the church for a long time. They're involved in a lot of faith traditions. And we're going to do some breath work. So meaning there's different kinds of meditative practices. The ones we're going to use embrace breath, which is a very embodied experience. When I breathe in, I breathe all the way down into the bottom of my lungs. So that's all the way into my body. It includes oxygen and other things that my body needs, which are carried through the blood from the lungs out to every cell in the body. So breathing really is an embodied experience. It's very powerful. You could use breathing for a lot of different things, not just meditative mindfulness, but a lot of different things that are very life-sustaining. And so the beauty of meditative, so there's this broad category, contemplative spiritual disciplines. What we're going to start with is what I would call practicing stillness. So and this is something I'm going to encourage you to try and practice. I'm going to encourage you to try it every day. Practice it every day. It's something that you could do at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day. You could do it in shorter amounts through the day. We'll talk about some of that. But it's how we get from resistance to surrender. It is the number one practice, my point of view, it's just my point of view. I think it's the number one spiritual discipline practice that we can embrace if we do it consistently to create a sense of peace and calm and presence regardless of how the circumstances are treating us. And you can use it to recover that when you've lost it because of anxiety, worry, stress due to circumstances. Those things occurring are never the problem. It just becomes a problem when we get stuck in them. So resistance is just part of life. It's never going away. We're always going to tend to resist things when they're not the way we prefer. And the way that resistance is expressed is usually through either reactivity, defensiveness, or withdrawal. And withdrawal actually is a form of reactivity also. It's just passive rather than assertive. So whenever you find yourself being cranky or, wiped out, or all these different great examples that people shared, in anything, whatever's going on for you, you can have that be a reminder that there is something you can do that's proactive and will make a huge difference. Now, what happens so we're going to be what I call practicing stillness. These are all meditative contemplation disciplines, and then we'll graduate from that into some other things that are really sort of an imagineering process, where you're imagining things coming in on the breath that your body needs, and you imagine yourself releasing things that you don't want in your body. And we're gonna literally do that. And the beauty of these things is they help us become present in the present moment. So the big challenge with worry and anxiety is it ties us to the past or the future. We're either worried about the future, or we have anxiety that some hauntings from our past will be revisited because of challenges or whatever's going on. And we're not comfortable just being with what is. So we try to go somewhere else to avoid it. And it creates this stress and all these things that people were explaining. This happens automatically. It happens subconsciously. It's just autopilot, because survival runs the show when we're on autopilot. And survival is all about playing it safe, being right, looking good, and being in control. So it's like a control move. And it creates, when I'm being judgmental, that's a control move. I'm trying to control those around me or control myself, and it's not working well. So then I react to it, and then it's this whole big mess. So the alternative is surrender, which also could be described as acceptance, which is simply being with what is. Sorry, forgot to turn that phone off and it dinged on me. So the point being is that's an opportunity for you to really develop new neural pathways. This works better than anything I've ever tried. I've been doing this for about 10 years, and all sorts of intractable bad habits of relating that I had. The one that comes to mind, which is most present for me, is impatience when driving. I was a horrible, aggressive, impatient driver, and no matter what I did, I couldn't make huge progress on that. And this completely transformed that to where I've greatly upped my batting average. So I also want you to think about that analogy or that metaphor, batting average, when you think about how you can improve by using the spiritual discipline. So we're never going to be perfect around this. The majority of the time, we're going to be in resistance, or we're not going to be fully present. And it requires, when you're on autopilot, that's what we are, when we're just automatically kind of zoning our way through the day. And it requires intentionality, presence of mind, to remember, and then to lean into this. But the beauty of that is you can build your muscles, your chops, so to speak, to predispose yourself to remembering and engaging it more often than you do now. And that's by developing new neural pathways in your brain that are aligned and developing to support these practices. This is sort of like working out. If I want to develop more upper body strength, for example, I need to do exercises that create more strength. I have to exercise. If I do the exercise, I get the results. Now, this is about exercising your brain, so to speak, and all the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous systems and everything that's connected to your brain. It's an exercise that embraces all of that, but it's the same kind of drill. I mean, literally, when you do this for 12 minutes or more, many experts say that your brain literally starts aligning neurons to accommodate what you're doing at around 12 minutes. It starts lining up to support what you're doing. So when you do this on a regular basis, you end up creating alternative highways in your brain to the super highways of resistance and reactivity that you've developed over the course of your life. We all have, huge super highways in our brain for the probably millions, but hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times that we respond to things by being reactive or defensive. So those are there, they're not going away. They serve a purpose. You know, if you're under real danger, you'd rather react right away instantaneously rather than just sit there and contemplate it while you're in the middle of some danger coming towards you. But if I want to be able to have in the moment the choice of choosing to be present, I've got to develop and enhance my capacity to do that. And that's what these exercises do. Plus, they bring peace and calm to us in the moment. So that's what we're going to be doing. So just a few logistics, and then we're just going to jump right in and do this. So the logistics are, this is best done in silence, just because that is less distracting. It supports the whole process. It's best done in solitude, meaning you're not around a busy environment with a lot of distractions. And when you do it, you can do it laying down, you can do it sitting, you can do it walking. There's just a huge amount of creativity with this. We're going to do this a particular way, but there's thousands of ways in which you can engage this, and you can be completely creative in how you develop this yourself. But when it comes to posture, you don't want to have your arms crossed or legs crossed. You want to sit up straight. You want to have your shoulders back, not from a military rigidity point of view, but just from an open-hearted point of view. It opens up your lungs to be able to breathe more deeply. When you inhale, what we're doing for this particular set of contemplative exercises is deep breathing, all right? So to facilitate deep breathing, when you inhale, you need to make sure that your stomach is going out. It's distending, it's going out, because your diaphragm goes down, and that gives room for your diaphragm to lower and for you to get more oxygen and air in your lungs, and it accelerates the benefit of this. So you want it, when you inhale, your stomach goes out. When you exhale, your stomach comes back in. So when you notice your mind wandering, which will occur, our minds wander. It's never a problem. Your mind wandering is never a problem. As a matter of fact, when we do this and your mind is wandering, when you notice it, you need to give yourself a gold star. A guy named William James, who is credited to be one of the three people who developed modern psychology in the late 1800s, early 1900s, has a quote, and he says, "The faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. An education which should improve this faculty, being able to bring back a wandering attention, any education which helps you with that, is an education par excellence." So he said the most excellent education you can have would include the capacity to notice when your mind is wandering and bring it back. So clearly, when your mind wanders and you're not focusing on your breathing and you're focusing on thoughts, no big deal, never a problem. The fact that you noticed it sets you up for the value of bringing back a wandering attention, which is the real game. Because we get distracted our attention in life and our attention goes somewhere else. When I realize that's not where I want my mind to go, I can catch that and bring it back to being grounded in the present moment. So this is literally a practice. It's a contemplative spiritual discipline that is a meditative practice, a mindfulness practice on doing this so we can be more present more of the time and have the benefits of the way of being, the state of being that generates for us. So that's what we're going to do. So if you would, the first thing that we start with is what I call practicing stillness, which is basically just a period of time to clear your mind. So from now to when we're finished with this, it will go 12 minutes, around 12 minutes, just so you know. So we're going to do this for 12 minutes. So if I'm doing this for 12 minutes in the course of my day, I spend a few minutes clearing my mind. Now, sometimes my mind's very unruly and it takes almost the whole 12 minutes just to get my mind to settle down. If so, that's okay. For our purpose, because I'm going to show you different aspects of this, we're only going to do that for a couple of minutes. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to practice just clearing this endless mental chatter in the back of your mind that runs all the time. We don't even pay attention to it. We don't notice it, but it influences our way of being, our state of health, our state of well-being. And because if that mental chatter is all about anxiety and worry, then we get the impact of that in our life. So the first step on this is to clear the mental chatter. We use the mechanism of breath in order to divert your attention from its normal focus on mental chatter, the internal mental chatter, to breath. So you're able to release your natural focus on mental chatter by focusing on breath, because your mind can only, if you're directing it, it will only focus on what you ask it to direct, and then it may unruly and wander. You just bring it back to your breath. So you're going to be seeing, envisioning the breath as it goes into you, down deep in your belly, and then as it goes out. So the first thing we're going to be doing is practicing stillness, and we're going to start that right now. So if you would close your eyes, which is just to help prevent distraction, just check your posture, and then just start breathing deeply. If you can breathe through your nose, then exhale through your mouth. If you're some issue where you can't breathe through your nose, that's fine. Just go ahead and breathe in and out through your mouth. And go ahead and just start breathing deeply now. So just envision the breath as it's going through your nose all the way down into your lungs, deep down into your belly. And then you exhale. You just exhale out anything you notice that is in the way of you creating some peace and calm and awareness. But really, you're just focusing on breath, clearing the mental chatter. Now, when you notice your mind wandering, you just bring it back to focusing on breath. Now, as you're continuing to do that, hone your inner observer, what I call your inner observer. In other words, just look inside of you and notice what's going on. No need to change it. No need to judge it. This is a chance to practice all this non-judgmentally. So just notice if you're holding tension, if there are pains somewhere, if you feel stress, if you feel calm, whatever's internally in you, in different parts of your body, just observe, just look inside as you're practicing this breathing, and just notice, not with any intention of doing anything, just noticing and being with it as you breathe into it. Now just notice what you notice. If you notice you get into a conversation about it, just release that. It's just breathing and noticing kinesthetically, physiologically, what's going on emotionally. Now we're going to just keep doing that while I'm talking to you. We're going to transition into what I call awakening prayer, which is, it's like a prayer without words. So what we're going to do is breathe in particular attributes, states of being, and breathe out states of being that are what we don't want. So I'm inhaling what I want. I'm exhaling what I don't want. And we're going to do this around specific things. So I generally, every day, go after a few different attributes. And the first one always is peace and rest. So just keep breathing in. As you breathe in peace and rest all the way deep into your body. Then breathe out whatever's in the way of that. Just breathing peace and rest deep into your soul, into your body. If there are places where you're uptight or stressed, breathe right into that area. And then breathe out, just release the stress or whatever it is that's in the way of the peace and rest. Peace, rest, and calm. All right, and we're going to transition to something else. Just keep breathing deeply. Now I'm going to ask you to breathe in God's utter delight for you. Completely unconditional, exactly the way you are right now in this present moment. He's completely overjoyed and delighted with you. So breathe in God's delight and breathe out your delight for him, your love and your delight for him. You're breathing in his love and delight for you. So practice that. Breathing in God's delight, utter delight for the way you are this second, and breathe out your delight and love in him. Now shift to healing. Breathe in God's healing. Any part of your body that you know you need healing in, breathe into his healing into that area. If you're not sure, just breathe his healing into every pore of your body, every cell, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, every part of you, his healing, just infusing you, filling you up with his healing presence. If your mind wanders, just bring it back, breathing in healing, exhaling anything in the way of healing. If you have an injury or a sickness, just breathe it out, release it, give it up. Now, transition to gratitude. Inhaling gratitude for all the unbelievable blessings God has given you. Just gratitude for all your blessings. And then exhale anything in the way of gratitude. You can also exhale your gratitude for God, for all of his blessings, whatever your choice, whatever you choose. But inhale gratitude and then either exhale things that are in the way of it if you know and recognize them. If not, you can just release and exhale your gratitude for God. When your mind wanders, you just bring it back. Now let's transition back to simply practicing stillness. Just breathing in, deep breaths. Notice what's going on in your body. Just notice it, be with it. No need to do anything about it. And then exhale. Just give it back to God. Repeat. If you notice mental clutter, mental chatter, just release it. Let it float away. Go back to focusing on breath. Okay, you can open your eyes. So that was around 12 minutes. So I'd love to hear from people. A couple of you have your microphone unmuted. So just notice if your microphone's unmuted, and please mute it unless you're sharing, because you would get background noise from them. So what I'd like to hear from you is what went on for you when we were doing that. What did you notice? What parts of it, what was the experience you had? Was it challenging? Was it enjoyable? Did it create stress in and of itself, the way you're relating to it? Enjoyable, unenjoyable, difficult, easy? Just what your experience was. So who'd like to share? Just very briefly, we'd like to hear from as many people as possible. Just unmute and share. Just go.
My neck is like super sore, I noticed. And my chest is a little tight. And I also noticed that I usually don't breathe fully. I just breathe very lightly. And the whole breathing full was really difficult, actually. And I'm really lightheaded.
Okay. Name and location?
Right. I'm Greg Dillon, and I'm in New Hampshire, Dover.
Good to see you, Greg. So what was the first thing you mentioned?
My neck is sore.
Yeah,
Another random
your neck was sore.
Yeah.
Were you aware that your neck was sore prior?
Nope.
Okay. That's so funny. That happens to me all the time.
Right.
I'm carrying all these things. I don't even know they're there. We're generally disconnected from our body. All right. Our culture doesn't teach us anything about how to be present in our body. So, 2 of our intelligence centers, the one besides our brain, which is our heart, your emotional intelligence center, and your instinctual intelligence center in your gut, they're in our body. So we're losing all this data that we could be consciously processing, or even subconsciously processing at times when we're disconnected. So that's one of the beauties of this, is just to get connected.
Huh.
Anything else, Greg?
Other than I'm really lightheaded. That's it.
All right, man. Thank you for sharing. Who else?
Hi, it's Bonnie Gibb.
Hi, Bonnie.
Hey,
Hi,
Bonnie.
I didn't know if you could hear me.
Yeah.
I'm in Chelmsford, Mass, and this was actually the first time that I got to stop all day and breathe. So for me, it was a welcome activity. And it was good to not have to focus on anything except for my breathing.
Cool. Two other people. We're going to take sharing from two more people. Who else would like to share? What did you notice? What came up for you? If you have any questions or you had difficulty with it, that's great to hear about also. It's not a problem. It's never a problem. You can stink at this and it still works. The
This
best.
is Liz from Austin.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I noticed that I don't know what it means to clear my mind. So I felt like I had to recalibrate a ton, but I noticed that I went to like my happy place, which is a coast, like a coastline with ocean sounds. Like I tried to imagine that and I was like, wait, no, I think I'm just supposed to be focusing on my breath. So it was like funny that I found myself escaping, which is something I've been doing for sure in this time. But then the flip side of that, as like I tried to maintain my breath, was that I also found myself feeling excited about the future. And then I was like, wait, like that's great. Think about that later. But right now you're supposed to be doing breath work. So it was just funny how I felt like I covered both sides of the spectrum in this.
That's awesome. It kind of probably freed you up a bit to consider those things. So yeah, so it's just changing your attention to breath. It's the focus on the breath that allows you to release the mental chatter, not have it be loud in your mind. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of attending to breath. Great. Thank you so much. So I do this most every day. You know, I'll forget a day here and there, but I do it almost every day, and I do it in the morning. And generally I try to do this at least 20 minutes, which is a good benchmark. What we did was 12 minutes, and 12 minutes is another benchmark. But look, if you're busy and all jammed up and you're waking up and your day's starting and you want to still do this, but you don't have much time, 2 minutes is a win. I say 2 minutes is a win, 12 minutes is a home run. So don't worry about it. And we're going to practice. Kristen's going to guide you through here in a minute on another practice you could do throughout the day that's only a 2 or 3 minute practice to help calm yourself during the day when things happen that get you riled up, or just to help you ground yourself when you're going into some part of your day that's very important for you to be present in. So there's tons of stuff in this we could get into. We get into this very deeply in the Legacy in Action, which is a 3-weekend training that we do for Impact and Reinvent grads, and we spend a lot of time on it. Today, I'm just giving you a touch of it, but you will get emailed. We email all the grads a link to a guided meditation very similar to what we just did that you can just practice. So you don't have to remember everything we did. You're going to get a link that you can just click on, and you can practice this if you want to take advantage of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, and she's going to talk a little bit about how this has worked for her. And also she's going to guide you through a shorter version and talk about that.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And thank you everyone for sharing. It's such an honor to hear from people. I love hearing from people and what they're going through. It's connecting for me because I feel less alone in this season. So just to introduce myself again, my name is Kristen Collins, and I am a coach for Reinvent Ministries. I'm on staff with Reinvent. I've been on staff for 3 years, and I'm also a sponsor. So I sponsor trainings in my area. Hopefully there'll be one coming to Santa Barbara soon. So I've been through all the trainings that we offer at Reinvent, and I was clear from my very first training that abundant life for me was living in this outward vision focused way that we do in our trainings and we talk about. So like we've talked about each week on these calls, flourishing is about having a vision for who you want to be and then stepping towards the practices and the habits and the mindsets to get you to that vision. So breath work, what we're talking about tonight, is a practice. It trains us to create spaces between a stimulus or an event and our response to it in a moment so that we can choose how we want to walk out our vision going forward. I think most of us have probably heard the Viktor Frankl quote. I'm going to read it to you. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. I read it so I didn't butcher it in front of Enyo and Chris. So breath work is the thing that helps us to widen that space between a stimulus and response. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how this shows up in my life personally. When I'm really up against it in seasons like we're in right now, my automatic is to sort of drop into this ruminating, catastrophic thinking, all is going to be ruined, nothing will be okay. So right now, a stimulus for me can be something as simple as reading a headline of a news article, and instantly I'm captured in this like ruminating thoughts that they kind of drive me inward. How that shows up in my life is it pulls me away from those that I love and who need me most in this time of uncertainty, kind of pulls me inward. My husband, Travis, will say things like, "Hey, where'd you go, babe? You seem far away suddenly." So before I can even realize that I'm captured in that automatic for myself, he's a great resource and mirror for me and feedback. So what I want to say is, as we're stuck at home with all of our families right now, they can actually be an incredible mirror for us of when we're slipping into automatic. So like Chris said, when I was in the LIA, we work a lot on breath work in LIA. And so when I was consistently doing this every day through the LIA, I started to notice with this regular practice that I was recognizing quicker when I was slipping into my autopilot, and I could come back to the present moment. So when I realize I'm in this ruminating place, then I actually can make a choice to, more often than not, I actually can make a choice if I stay out of self-judgment and ask myself what's wanted and needed to move towards the vision for what I want in the moment. But it starts with recognizing that I'm on automatic, if that makes sense. So I don't know how automatic shows up for you on this call. For some of you, it might show up similar to me. But breath work, no matter how your automatic shows up, the breath work that you do and the regular habitual practice of it can help you notice and create a space so that you can get off that autopilot. So why does this matter so much right now? Especially, I'm sure you guys can figure that out or imagine that when we're off automatic and we're making the choice to be a resource for ourselves, for our families and communities and the world, we can really be a supportive presence in this time of crisis. So the single most important thing that can happen to create flourishing in the world during this pandemic is that we feel our collectivity, that we are here to help each other. So if we can interrupt our fear responses that drive us towards self-focus and then keep offering care to ourselves and to others, it's going to make us much more tender and compassionate people. And from that place, we'll live naturally from a more ethical space. So we can instinctively almost be able to notice how God might be inviting us to move and respond in the world. So someone once said to me, pay attention to the things that move you to tears, because tears are often an expression of something your heart's longing for. So I don't know about you, but in this season, I have often been moved to tears as I've been watching the collectivity happening in the world, like whole cities at 7 p.m. cheering for the hospital workers, pots and pans, and people singing to each other on their balconies, and nurses and doctors worshiping on top of their hospital roofs, and thousands of people hand sewing masks. I mean, it just goes on and on and on right now. And I love looking, I'm like scouring for it every day. So practicing mindfulness grounds us. It gives us an opportunity to create those mental and heart spaces big enough to handle whatever comes at us so that we can engage the world in this altruistic, more selfless way. That makes sense? So I read, as I was preparing for this week, this powerful quote by a psychologist named Tara Hatch. I'm going to read it to you, and then we'll go into the 3-minute meditation, and then we'll take some time for sharing, and then we'll wrap up tonight. So she says, the true impact of meditation is that it actually, The true impact of meditation is that it actually dissolves our excessive sense of self It frees up our sense of connection with each other. It helps us come home to a space of presence that's large enough for whatever we encounter. And it's from that space that we can actually live out who we most want to be. So let's just go right into the 3-minute mindfulness. I'm going to pull my phone out here and put us on a timer for 3 minutes. And go ahead and you can do this. What I love about this one is sometimes I'll even do it in my car sitting at a stoplight, because stoplights can be right around that 2-minute mark. But you can do it anywhere. But for our purposes, let's close our eyes for this. And I'm going to have you sit in a posture that feels conducive to really be able to deeply breathe. And go ahead with your eyes closed and take a deep breath. Breathe in and imagine breathing in peace and rest. Breathe in peace and rest. And as you breathe out anxiety and worry. Inhale peace and rest. And exhale anything getting in the way of that. Annoyance, irritation, anxiety. Now breathe in peace. As you breathe in, imagine that peace deeply filling your lungs and your belly. And as you exhale, exhale your trust and rest in God. Breathe in peace and exhale your trust in God. You can rest in Him. Now, next time you inhale, inhale God's peace and faithfulness towards you. And exhale your trust in Him that He's really got you, that He'll carry you through whatever comes next. Inhale your peace and faithfulness, and exhale your trust in Him to take care of you. And this last time, inhale deep joy of His nearness, that He's with you. He's here with you in this very moment. Inhale the joy you feel for His nearness. And exhale your gratitude for that nearness. Just breathe out gratitude into the world. That God's so near and so present in this moment with you. And that's it. That was 3 minutes. So we're running real low on time, I just saw.
Yeah,
Chris?
so let me just jump in a minute. We're a little short on time. One of the beauties of what Kristen was doing, you can do that throughout the day, and you can do anything. I like sometimes when I notice I'm just all worked up and stressed and I need to calm down, I'll just breathe. I'll just do practicing stillness, just clearing thought and breathing and calming myself, breathing in peace and rest and calm, healing, whatever I want to for a couple minutes. I used to get annoyed by red lights. Now I kind of like them most of the time when I remember that that's a chance for about a minute, or if it's a long light, a minute and a half of breath work. And then it makes me sad that the light changes then versus annoyed that it took so long. So it completely changes my experience in that moment. So there's a million ways you can do this during the day. And it's cumulative in terms of the neural path development. So it's better to do this a few minutes a day than it is to do it for 2 hours once a week, because you're building a road in your brain when you're doing this. And when you're road building, you got to stay after it day after day so you don't lose your gains in a way. So that's something, my challenge to all of you is to practice this every day. We're going to send you guided meditations to both one of them is 15 minutes, the other one's 3 minutes versions. So if you're not sure how to do it, you can use those and track those just as a starting point. If you practice this some and you have your own routines, absolutely embrace them. But here's the challenge. Do this every day of the week from now all the way to the end of this whole pandemic mess, which who knows when that'll be, and start the process of developing this as a habit. It's one of the most life-changing habits you can ever do. And it's like 50% of the game on getting to surrender from resistance when life isn't showing up the way I prefer. And in a couple of weeks, we'll talk about the rest of that. But next week, I just want to mention before we close out that we're going to get into flourishing in times of uncertainty. Brandon Cook and Jane Perry. Jane is one of our sponsors on our leader team, runs all of our coaching, and they're going to be exploring the relationship between grief and gratitude. They'll be talking, sharing, and listening to your stories about what it takes for families to flourish during times of uncertainty, which we have now, and how to navigate this quarantine with grace, whether you're home alone or in a house full of others. So that's going to be our topic for next week, and really appreciate you being a part of this. You know, we're shut down in terms of doing trainings for now, so it's a tough time for us also as an organization. If you'd like to stand with us financially as partners, you can go to our website, reinventministries.org. At the top of the page in the navigation bar is a link that says donate. You can go there and you can do one time or join our monthly giving program. I know for a lot of you, you're in financial straits now also. So we're just saying for anyone who has the ability to do that and the interest in doing that, that's always an option, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thanks,
Great
everyone.
to see all of you. Thank you, Kristen. And
Thank you, Chris.
we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Kristen and Chris, and thank you all. Great to see
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Stay safe.
Everyone.